So let's get right into the opening segment. Buy, Rent, Burn. That is the segment of the podcast where we all select a game. We play them individually and we make decisions as to whether we would buy, rent, or burn each individual game respectively. Now, the system of choice this episode is the NES. Andy has gone with Kickle, Cubicle. Justin has gone with Jimmy Connor's Tennis. And I've selected Monster in My Pocket. So what we'll do first is we'll go back and listen to a little bit of a description on each one and just kind of talk through our thoughts. So let's start things off with Andy's pick, Kickle Cubicle. This was released in 1990. Description on this one: the kingdom's covered with ice, and it's likely to stay that way unless Kickle saves the day. The wicked Wizard King came to the fantasy kingdom and covered the 4 lands with ice. Now armed with his freezing breath, Kickle sets out to save his friends. Join Kickle as he attempts to rescue the kingdom from this puzzling predicament of perpetual winter.
It's more story than probably what the game leads on, but I'm glad that you were the one that had to go out there and pronounce definitively how you say this name, because when I was younger, I always thought it was like Kickle Cubicle or something like that, just because it had to rhyme with Kickle, but...
That might be. Am I going to get hate from the internet now? Did I officially do this
I don't
wrong?
know if there's I don't think there's like a exact way you're supposed to say it. I don't know.
I kind of like Kickle Cubicle. Not going to lie.
I mean, I played the game for quite a while. I didn't see any cubicles, so...
Or maybe it's
that's
like
part of it.
Italian. It's Kickle Cubicle. Or Pig Latin or something.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know.
Is that actually Italian? El Kickle?
That's Spanish. That's El Spanisho, Justin O.
Kickle, choose whatever word you want to use for that second. It's a puzzle game where you kind of walk around on a platform of ice, and you need to collect certain items. I think they're like little bags or something, and they're usually like on a separate island or something of ice, and you need to figure out how to get over to there. And what you do is you spit really cold air at these enemies, turn them into an ice block, shove them off the edge until you make a ice bridge to the other side.
Wait, he's spitting on them? That's horrible. What do they do to deserve being spat on?
Have you seen those things? They're not.
Well, okay.
They're not even things, really.
That's true.
So
that's true. Not all life matters.
Yeah, I think they're just water, right? Like those look like little water blobs, and you just make them cold, so they're ice. So it's fine.
We're committing genocide. It's not fine.
Yeah, but for me, I'm the only person to bring pushing puzzle games to this podcast, so I figured I'd keep up that tradition and bring this one. I think it's probably the best one to date that I've brought, but I don't know. For me, it gets a little bit hectic. I mean, you can kind of raise ice columns up out of the ice to make walls and block enemies from getting anywhere, but like, I guess I didn't spend enough time with it, apparently, to get good enough to manage that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does get more hectic just because of like the limited move set and the relative slow speed of your character, Kickle. But it's a really good puzzle game. I'm actually kind of mad as like an NES collector that I've not played this game before, because I loved it. It reminded me, like, everything it touches on. If you're a fan of Bubble Bobble, I feel like it nails like a lot of the cross like comparison, like cute characters, the weird vegetables and like food power-ups, and just this catchy music in the background. I mean, it's obviously a much different game. Like you said, it's more block pushing than action, but yeah, I put this in and found myself playing for well over an hour. It was a really solid, fun puzzle platformer game. Maybe not platformer, but puzzle action game, I guess.
Yeah, this one, like, it's probably the one that I spent the most, well, definitely the one that I spent the most time on. I spent probably about 45 minutes or so. I really enjoyed just the way it played. I think being able to, play as Mr. Cubicle, it works, and the the ice pillars and stuff, being able to maneuver to block the enemies, just the different maps too. It definitely was an interesting one. I enjoyed it.
Yep. And you get farther into the game, and there's like those those puzzles that you kind of need to maneuver around an obstacle, and like you you're pretty much like leaving a path of like 1 or 2 blocks, and you have to like direct those guys, the enemies, down toward you, and it's a little bit harrowing to pull that off, because I feel like if you don't press that button exactly in the right moment, they just turn right into you and kill you. But those were definitely the hardest ones for me, was those ones that you have to like go around an object to get to the bags instead of just making a bridge,
Well, you bring up a good point though too. Like, it does get a little bit like intense, but it's one of those games that's definitely got its controls down well. Like, I never felt like I was cheated out of a life. Like, it's always you knew exactly what you screwed up on when you died, which is like definitely the hallmark of a well-designed game.
Yep.
It did take me forever to figure out what I was supposed to do. I don't know what you guys, but I played for probably a good 5 minutes before I realized what the point was. But
Yeah.
I was kind of familiar with it oddly because I don't know if you guys have heard of like Mega Cat Studios, but they're like doing new homebrew NES games, and they released a game recently called Medusa that's essentially like a variant of this game. So in seeing like a let's play of that, like a preview for the game, I kind of already knew what to do in this one, which is weird, but
Oh, okay. Huh.
I did find out the hard way though. Like, I just assumed at first that you needed to collect everything on screen to clear, and then I got to like that third map, and like I didn't get the food first, and I got like those bags or whatever that you pick up, and then you're like warped out of the level before you get all the stuff. So adds a little extra layer of strategy where you want to get the collectibles before you zap yourself out of a level and complete it.
Yeah, you get the points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, it's a great puzzle game. I mean, it's simple, it's addictive. I mean, what more can you want? Is it 2-player? Does anyone know? I don't think it is, but
I don't think it was.
yeah.
No, I don't think I didn't see an option anyway.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. That's the only thing that maybe holds it back a little bit.
Yep.
That could get interesting then. Like, if it was 2-player, if you wouldn't be able to move through your teammate, if you're against each other,
screw each other,
push a block toward them,
knock them into the water,
push them off.
Yeah.
There was one puzzle that I died almost immediately. I didn't know what the thing was right away, but there's like a spring, and you push it toward the spring, and it just like immediately slams back at you and kills you.
Yeah, you have that moment of, oh, that's cool, and then, oh, wait, I'm dead. Because I did the exact same thing. I walked up to that block, and boom, done.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a spring. After looking at it, like seeing what it was, it's like, okay, that makes sense. This is how we learn.
Sometimes you just gotta roll with the death.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Justin's pick. One with the tennis game, surprisingly. So this is Jimmy Connors Tennis. This came out in 1993. This is actually a pretty expensive game, I believe, for the NES. The description on this one: Jimmy Connors, ranked number 1 for 159 weeks, holder of 8 Grand Slam titles and a record 109 single titles, more than any other player in history, is the greatest tennis champion ever. Now you're Jimmy Connors, battling your way to the number 1 spot. If he's already number 1, why are you battling? Anyway, enjoy a choice of 3 court surfaces: grass, hard, and clay. Hard is a surface. 3 skill levels: beginner, intermediate. So basically, this is just saying, like, Jimmy Connors is awesome. Here's, like, everything that's in every tennis game ever. That's the description. So, Justin, what do you think about your pick?
Well, I picked this because you guys both brought tennis games, so I figured I had to.
It's true.
Yeah. It is just as terrible as I expected it to be, as a tennis game. would be on pretty much any system. I guess there's a couple tennis games, later on.
Yeah, Virtua Tennis is like probably the only one that's gotten it good.
But the good thing for this one is you could actually serve without faulting every time. I still had trouble with the depth perception, moving the guy, and actually hitting the ball sometimes. But plus, I don't think you can actually get it past the other guy.
Yeah.
I played on beginner, and we went back and forth for like 5 minutes. And then finally I was like, all right, I'm just going to let you get it past me. I quit.
So yeah, you bring up like one of like the immediate like holes in this game is that in a good tennis game, depending on where you angle your player, even like the most rudimentary tennis games, like where you angle your player on the court, generally changes the trajectory of the ball. Like this happened since Pong was invented. But for whatever reason, in Jimmy Connor's tennis, you can only hit it straight forward, no matter how you position yourself. So yeah, these volleys are like goddamn marathons. They're like, they would go on for like 30 seconds a minute. And then like, just like you, I'd be like, I don't care. I don't need this point this bad. This is okay. You can have it.
You could change like the different type of hit. Like you could get
you could do the lob
further back or like the lob.
Yeah.
But every time it was hit back.
Yep.
It was like directly at him. Yeah.
Yep.
I will say like it's kind of like a technical marvel in how fast the game runs. The visuals look really good for what it is on the NES, and the music is great. Like everything about like the presentation is quick, responsive. It's just that they completely botched the volley, which is the game. I mean that's what you need to get right here. I think my favorite part of this that I just immediately laughed at is, I'm assuming you're playing as Jimmy Connors, but like just his ass swagger. Like when you're standing there waiting for a serve, he's just like swinging his ass back and forth on the line. Like of all the things you could have used the NES to animate, like why did you need this animation of Jimmy just like waggling his ass at me?
I honestly didn't notice that, but it doesn't surprise me you did.
Yeah.
I set myself up for that one. But yeah, it's such a weird thing. I've never seen a tennis game do that on the NES.
And it screwed me up because like that motion back and forth is like one speed, and then as soon as the ball's hit and you're moving around, it's like double speed. Yeah. Like you guys got hustle. So like, yeah, it messed me up a little bit. The other thing, like I think it's just a fault of like all these old ones, but like as soon as you start swinging a racket, like your momentum stops. You're not going to continue to run, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like obviously modern games are much more forgiving in that way, where it's like they want you to press the swinging button before you even get there.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I ran into that quite a bit, but then I got used to it, I guess, and
yeah,
I was able to hit back and forth, but I don't know, it was just a struggle. But like Ryan said, visually, I mean, it played fast, it played decent, it's just you couldn't control anything. You had no control over anything.
I thought one interesting choice, too, that I've never seen done in a tennis game before is that, you know, whether you did like the fast swing or the lob, it had a hold button mechanic, you know, so it's like because usually you press the button and it just swings through, but in this game, if you hold the button down, he doesn't follow through on the swing, he just stands there like racket back. So that screwed me up a few times until I figured that out. And then that kind of ties into what you were saying, Andy, where it's like, you're trying to time it out, but if you hit that too soon, like you lose your run, you know, and in a lot of other tennis games, like if you swing too early and you whiff, you have like a slight second to like take a step back and try for another swing. You can really screw yourself if you're not anticipating that in this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess I didn't realize that either. But
it is probably the better, even with the, you know, the problems it has, it's probably still one of the better tennis games on the NES, right?
Yeah, it's technically impressive. Yeah. I mean, I think you'd be fine against another person. I just can't imagine, you know, considering how difficult that was and just like the endless volleys on beginner. I mean, I can't imagine stepping it up to like intermediate or hard against the computer. It would be just a nightmare. But
I think they even have like, I'm moving way ahead, but like, I played a couple tennis games on PlayStation and on 360. I think it was PlayStation, maybe PlayStation 2, but like I kind of enjoyed those actually, but I don't remember the names of them. But this one though, I just can't bring myself to want to go back and ever play again.
Yeah, technically impressive, just maybe not that. The volume stuff, like, you know, the core of the gameplay just isn't as good as the package around it, I think.
Yeah.
Plus, it's really bare bones. Like, it's tennis, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, where's my
like
quest
the menu
mode?
is like, yeah, what kind of tennis do you want to play? What, you know, like, just a few different options, and that's it. Yeah.
I want to go to the magical
quest
land
mode.
of Chicago and fight for the stolen courts in the kingdom, please.
Yes.
All right, so let's go to my pick, Monster in My Pocket. This came out in 1992. This has got just an absurd description. I'll try to get through it fast. So, thousands of history's famous monsters gather for the meeting of the century, but their volcanic convention center erupts, mysteriously turning them into terrors of pint-sized proportions. They escape to the home of Jack, the teenage captain of Cool. There begins a battle between the good ghouls and the warlocks' band of evil beasts. You must become the vampire or the monster and lead the forces of right through a humongous human-sized world of 6 levels, featuring Jack's house, a scummy sewer, a hazardous construction site. This is a questionable phrase here. I'm just going to say that. And an odd oriental palace. Don't get burned on the kitchen stove or crushed by runaway golf balls. Meanwhile, you'll have to punch and zap all the fiendishly favorite monsters, including the head-rolling skeleton, the rock candy-throwing goblin, the bone-crushing cyclops, and dozens more. I'm just going to cut it off there. But basically, they're trying to set it up. I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with Monster in My Pocket. Like, did you guys play with the toys back in the day that this is based off of? That then became like a TV show briefly? So...
I don't remember 'em.
Okay.
I've seen them now, but
yeah, they're kind of cool. Basically, what it was is like a toy line, and they would advertise the hell out of them back when, you know, kids had after school cartoons and Saturday morning cartoons. You would buy these little figures. They would come in like packs of like 2 or 3. Think like Micro Machines, but little cheap, almost like muscle figures. You guys probably don't remember those either. But
no, I remember.
Yeah,
those.
it's kind of like that, where they're just like these one colored. I mean, there were different color variations, but no details of this figure. It was just like a little 1.5-inch figure. Some kind of weird random monster, and then on the bottom they would have hit points on them, you know, ranging from 1 to 50 or whatever. I can't remember what it was. And you would just you could do a tabletop game with them, with your friends, and like line up set up your lineup and then try and take people down. So it was kind of a little bit of strategy where you're like building a deck and fighting people, in addition to just collecting these little toys. Anyway, it was a very popular toy for a short while. This, obviously, Konami picked this license up and made a game on it. And basically they just kind of tried to interpret that into a game, which it's kind of just a side-scrolling beat 'em up. The only thing that really sets it apart is that you're set in like these obviously home-based level. It's almost like Micro Machines, but it's a beat 'em up. You know, you're fighting through a kitchen sink area, you're fighting through a sewer area, and overall the gameplay is pretty shallow, right? You just kind of have to keep running, otherwise the respawning enemies continue to attack you. And it's just simple 1-button punches to take anything out on screen, which just kind of results in, I guess, a good-looking NES game. It's got a ton of flicker and slowdown, though, because of all the stuff on screen. But it's just a very shallow experience, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I did like quite a bit is, obviously, since you're so small, that, you know, there's a lot of objects around the house.
My wife says
that. Yeah. There's a lot of objects around the house that are like, you know, massive compared to you. So those are most often than not like platforms that you can jump up on. So like each one of those is kind of a bit of a surprise to be like, oh, look how tiny I am. I'm like jumping up this thing, you know, this boombox or this chair.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever like that. So that I did kind of enjoy that part.
The thing with that is, like, I feel like I already got that as a kid, though, when Rescue Rangers came out. So to me, this is like almost like treading on that. And then I don't know if anybody else caught it, but I mean, it is Konami. So Konami did all the Turtles games for the NES too. And like, I swear to God, the second level soundtrack sounds like something ripped straight out of one of the Turtles games on the NES. I mean, almost note for note.
Is this the one I didn't notice that.
had the option to turn music off when you started it?
No, I think it was Jimmy Connor's Tennis.
Was it Jimmy Connor? Okay. Because whichever one it was, I turned it off and I was like, oh, I can't get music back on. I wasn't going to shut it off and load it back
Turn it
up.
back
So
on. Yeah.
played that without music. But
Yeah.
yeah, this one, like, now that you mention it, like, I honestly, I thought it, like, the attacks and stuff, when the enemies came at you and just, like, I don't know if it hitbox, I suppose.
Yeah.
It felt like Turtles games. And just being able to actually hit them compared to a couple games that we've played recently where you couldn't do, like, your attacks just weren't what you expected. And I felt like this one, the attacks were there and it worked well. I just feel it was kind of a bland game, I guess. Just
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's almost like there's really nothing you can put your finger on that's wrong with it. It's just that there's also nothing exceptional about it, so it just kind of lands. Yeah. It lands in like that was, I mean, a worthwhile distraction category for me. I don't know that it's not notable enough that I'd put it on like the top tier of NES stuff.
Yeah. Also, is the key for anything?
No, I thought that the same
I couldn't
thing.
figure that out either.
No, I think it just sits there.
I threw it off screen and I was like, oh, I can't go get it because you can't go backwards.
I think you just clobber
and then
with it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm guessing it's just to attack stuff with it. But some of the other enemies too, like the smaller ones that kind of like floated around, were kind of annoying. But
Yeah.
again, they're still fairly easy to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think 2-player would be reasonably good.
Yeah, I wonder if it scales up in like difficulty or amount of hits with 2 players, because that would be, I could see that being pretty easy.
I wonder just how bad it like slows down with 2 players, because as slow as it gets with just one, if you got two characters, twice the inputs, it's like, man, it definitely like pushes the NES as far as like sprites on screen at one time, because it chugs on occasion, like bad.
Yeah, well, you got 5 or 6 things going at once.
Yeah.
And then the ones that shoot like moving projectiles or whatever on the screen as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting title. I mean, and it's an interesting license to pick up, because it was just such a small window in time that Monster in My Pocket was relevant on the scene. So it's interesting that Konami did it, but again, it's Konami back in the NES era. So how bad could something like this possibly be? It turned out all right, all things considered.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it worked perfect for this type of, format that we play these games in, though.
Yes.
Like, it was the exact right amount of difficulty for me, where it was like you could progress, just constantly progressing like through it, where a lot of these games are like, you got to spend an hour with it to memorize a lot of this stuff to get to a point where you can, progress a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I made it to the 4th level maybe on this one.
I don't think I made it to the 4th one.
I think I made it to the 3rd, and then I had the continue option, but I've progressed. I recently picked this game up for my personal collection not that long ago, so I've been playing quite a bit more of it recently. I just kind of did a refresher, but yeah, that's a great point. Like, it's a great game to just play and have some challenge, but not just be completely bogged down by, beating you over the head. It's not NES hard. It's tolerable hard.
Yeah.
But we've gone through all 3 of the games. Why don't we go through and give our individual picks on which games that we would individually buy, rent, or burn? Andy, start off with you.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned like 2-player, I kind of want to see if they pull that off nice in Monster in My Pocket. That probably would be my buy, just because there's not too many that are perfect like that in that type of style game. In a platforming too.
And I'd argue that 2 players playing with the monster in your pocket is probably the way to
go. But yeah, I think my buy is going to be Kickle, Cubicle. Just because I think I spent the most time with that one this week, and overall I walked away with it probably the most enjoyed, or I had the most fun with it, I should say. And felt like I accomplished the most, right? Like, you felt smart after a few of those, because there's a couple of them later on in there that you're like, how do I beat this? You know, like, I can't quite tell what they want me to do. And I guess with that type of game, like, as long as you shove enough blocks everywhere, like, it's an endless amount of blocks, so you can brute force it. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. That's going to be my buy. And for my rent is Monster in My Pocket. Just because like I said, like, it's the perfect type of rental game, I would say. Like, you know, put it in, play it, progress, actually feel accomplished, instead of like the hard as balls ones where you're like, oh crap, I can't rent this, I need to buy it. Right. And my burn is going to be Jimmy Connor's tennis something tennis. I don't even know the name of it. What is it? Pro tennis?
I think it's just Jimmy Connor's tennis.
Jimmy.
Yeah. I think
okay. So. It's only his tennis.
Yes.
I guess if we already burned a game that was called Amazing Tennis, like, we have to burn a game that's just regular tennis. Right. So that's going to have to stand in our ruling, I think. So
I feel like they got the naming backwards. This one should have been Amazing Tennis compared to
comparatively, yes.
Anyways.
They do have a Super Nintendo version of this game too. I'd like to see that stacked against David Crane's.
Apparently it's also on Game Boy and Lynx. So
oh, sure.
Maybe we'll have to bring this back up for our Lynx episode.
Yeah. I bet that is just amazing.
That is something, all right. All right, Justin, how about you?
Well, I didn't expect that I would have a similar outcome as anybody else. I am going to burn Jimmy Connor's tennis. My buy is actually going to be Kickle, Cubicle, or whatever. I really did enjoy that one. I didn't actually expect anybody else to buy that one, but I really enjoyed it. I do find the puzzle games like this to be entertaining. You just kind of sit down and I guess work on the different puzzle strategies, everything like that. So I really enjoyed this game. I'm gonna rent Monster in My Pocket, just because I don't think it's a great game. I think it's an okay game, and I feel like I wouldn't want to pay the money to buy it. It plays all right and everything. It's just not my type of game, and it's just kind of there.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna agree with you guys. I'd buy Kickle, Cubicle. I thought, I was aware of this game, especially being an NES collector. I just never had played it. I had not played it, and I loved it. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of the things that I like about Bubble Bobble. But then just, a different take, at least visuals and the cuteness of it and the sound, like, it was all stuff that pulled me into that game. And then the gameplay was just solid too. I really liked it. In fact, this is going to be on my buy list when we go to the Midwest Gaming Classic here in April, because I want to keep playing this game. And I would also rent Monster in My Pocket for the same reason that you guys said. It's just kind of an average game, and then, like Andy pointed out, it fits rental well because it's not that difficult. You could pick this up, rent it for a weekend as a kid, play through it once or twice, and send it back to the store. So it lands perfectly in that spot. And Jimmy Connor's tennis, of course, I'm going to torch. A lot of really impressive things about this game, given the platform it's on. It's just not very good in the play mechanics. Some of the basics. It's just those volleys just go on for far too long. I would have to burn it. So once again, we have a unanimous buy, rent, burn conclusion. So quite the interesting smattering of games too. A puzzle game, a beat 'em up, and a tennis game.